Huh? We're live.
So what they did, they put it in the field, and then when they looked at the rest of their yard, they're at the bottom of the hill, all the white runs down there. So, long story short, so they tried to look at it, and they said, "Well, what's the variance?" And the variance was so that they it serves as a spring. And so to get the maximum for their property, they added a variance. My neighbor and I, John,
We get started here at 7:30. You join me in the pledging flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, we can establish a quorum, please.
Dennis Brown.
Here.
Don Harmon.
Here.
Myself, Barry Gardner.
Here.
Shane McGuinn.
Here.
Maureen Walsh. Here. All board members are present.
Can I have a motion and a second to approve the July minutes?
I'll make a motion.
I say. All in favor?
Aye.
Treasury report then.
Everything's looking pretty good. We're over budget in income for the month. So we're on the year, which is about 195,000 so far over the budget. At 85% assessment paid compared to 83% last year. And our income is looking good. Cost of sales is up, but that means we're selling more goods, which is a good thing, making more money. Payroll is under budget, partly because of employee shortages. And it's under with about $13,000 for the year so far. And operating expenses we're under budget, and they're looking good at $185,000 for the year. Capital spending for the month of July is $274,262. That included $260,862 for road paving and work, $13,000 for the sewer tie-ins on the golf course restaurants. Any questions?
President's report. I'm sitting in this seat due to recent resignation of President Mickey Boyd. his resignation letter, he wrote, "After 7 years of service, my family is ready for me to dedicate more time to our lives together. I appreciate the opportunity to serve our Fairfield community and greatly appreciate the many residents who have voted for me and had faith in my leadership. I've gotten to know many of our neighbors and gained many friends over the years, which is one of the greatest rewards of serving." I would personally like to thank Mickey for his 7 years on the board and service to the residents of Fairfield. We wish him well on his next endeavor. Many have asked why the board of directors chose to fill a seat by appointment, and we did not fill the seats of Ashley DeGraves and Mike Farnwell. The difference between Mike's and Ashley's resignation and Mickey's is that Mike and Ashley's term were up this September. Due to the short time left in their terms, the board elected to spread the committee work and leave them open until September. For Mickey's term, this was different in the fact that we had 2 years left. Following the governing documents, specifically the bylaws, the board elected to fill the vacancy and have more community representatives rather than leave the position open for 2 years. I was not in attendance last month due to the vacations, and I didn't get a chance to congratulate everyone on another great 4th of July. I would like to thank all the volunteers and staff that put hours of work into the making a great success. Lastly, it is that time of year again. School is in session. The buses are running in Fairfield. Please allow yourself more time in the morning to get to work. Remember, it is against the law to pass a stopped school bus with their lights flashing regardless of whether you are inside or outside the gates. Operations.
Now bear with me a little bit, this is a little bit longer than normal. I'm going to start with just an annual meeting reminder. The annual meeting and election will be next month on Saturday, September the 18th. The meeting will be held at the Fairfield Country Club. Voting will be from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. with the meeting beginning at 10. Annual meeting packets will go out no later than August 27th of this month. If you do not receive your packet by September 6th, please contact the POA office. And I urge everyone to read all of the information in the packet and contact the office if you have any questions regarding the proxies or the voting procedures. In regard to the other vote that is currently underway, I want to take a moment to hopefully clarify a few items regarding the consolidated and amended declaration of restrictions and answer a few of the questions that I've frequently been asked. I'll first start with the special assessment addition and changes. Every association should have verbiage in their governing documents that allows the association to pass a special assessment should the need arise. Proper budgeting and planning should be done so that this is not ever needed. However, verbiage should be there in case of an emergency or an unplanned expense. The current fiscal year budget, property owners are paying $191,520 in an SBA loan that was taken out due to the 2009 flood. This yearly expense will not be paid off until 2029. If Fairfield had collected the special assessment instead of utilizing the SBA for the loan, we would not have this recurring operating expense, which costs each resident $107 out of the current assessment. Initially, the document management committee added the special assessment verbiage to the first and second DOR revisions. It was written to give the board of directors the authority to pass the special assessment without the community's input. The mindset behind this was to give the board the authority to act quickly in the event of an emergency. It has been amended in the current revision that is out for a vote now and gives the property owners the authority to vote whether or not a special assessment is passed. In the current revision if the current revision of the DOR passes along with the initiation fee, the likelihood that the special assessment will be needed in the future is very slim. Moving on to the initiation fee. Having an initiation fee in no way hurts property values or makes property harder to sell to a potential buyer. The initiation fee is very common in most associations, and some associations actually even charge an additional exit fee when you leave. The initiation fee is a way to add money to the reserve account for capital improvements at no charge to the current property owners. Since January 1st of this year to August 10th, when I wrote the report, 128 properties have changed hands in Fairfield. We currently had an initiation fee in place that is set to half of the current year assessment. The association would have gained thus far $105,600. This year to go directly toward capital improvements. Fairfield has years of deferred maintenance projects due to not enough money being placed in that capital account. Lastly, I often get asked, why can't we just vote on the changes separately? There are several reasons behind this. This is a brand new document that provides the community a clean, legible, consolidated copy of the Declaration of Restrictions. The document must be voted on as a whole to be legally valid. The major changes have been outlined on the summary sheet. However, this is a new, clean document. Changes have been made, the layout definitions have been added, and no longer relevant portions have been removed, and the sections that have been revoked by other amendments later down the road have been removed. And sections have been clearly outlined for an easier to read format. If you're familiar with the current DOR that we're currently operating with, you know it's very old, scanned copy of the originals that have sections that were revoked, amended, then amended again, so on and so forth. We have to use the originals that were recorded many years ago, again, to be legal. The major changes that have been outlined as major talking points can be voted on separately. However, they would just go at the end of the scanned documents as amendments, like the ones that were voted on in 1984, 92, 95, 2010, and 2012. I challenge all property owners to take a look at the consolidated and amended Declaration of Restrictions and compare it to what we currently have in place. We have the current DOR on our website at fairfieldplantation.com under the Governing Documents tab.
Thank you. Old business. We did an e-vote, lakes and dams measurement rules.
I'll go over it in detail. We've had some problems in the past with measuring boat lengths, and it gets some to the point where it gets sort of subjective. So what we have done is we've modified the rules. Let the Lakes and Dams Committee, working with the board, a lot of thought went into this. There's differences of opinion back and forth, and some of the discussions got rather heated. However, the decision was made to use the NADA guidelines for boat length. I'm going to go ahead and read this section. It's 7.6.1 under of the Lakes and Dams rules. No boat other than pontoon boats and sailboats shall exceed 20 feet in length. Pontoon boats and sailboats shall not exceed 24 feet in length. Rowing shells for 1 or 2 passengers are not to exceed 21 feet in length and are allowed for use on Lake Ashley only. That's the existing rule. What's changed? In addition, that still stands. What adds up to it? All boats shall be evaluated for length using NADA guidelines. If a boat or a vessel is not listed on NADA, manufacturer's specifications will be used. If the manufacturer's specifications are used, the length will be rounded down for the same method used in the NADA. In some cases, the NADA will say the boat is 21 feet long. When you measure it, it might be 21 feet 4 inches, but NDA says it's 21. So we're going to go with 21, just to cut out the confusion. We're not going to get into this, well, it's a 1/4 inch over or a 1/4 inch less. We're going to have a situation where back in the past, somebody actually saw it 2 inches off their boat to get it in compliance. So we're not going to play that game. So anyway. Vessels may be needed to be measured by a POA representative due to either lack of documentation or a discrepancy in documentation. If this is required, the POA representative
will measure the vessel, use the United States Coast Guard recommendations, and length will be rounded down for the same method used in the NADA. So keep it short, length, half as it is in the NADA. If they call it 21 feet, then darn it, it's 21 feet. So that's what we did. There's a couple other changes on here. Those are the major changes. We're hoping that this will take some of the confusion out of boat lengths requirements and let people buy a boat in Virginia that's 21 feet and bring it down here and it'll still be 21 feet. So that's where we're going. So that's the new Lakes and Dams rules. Again, Lakes and Dams Committee put a lot of time in this. The board did back and forth many times, but I think this simplifies it. NADA for length, NADA for weight.
New business. I need a motion and a second to renew the contract for American Schools for the 22-23 season.
Motion? I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right.
And I need a motion to approve the revised golf contract.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Now I need a motion and a second to approve the revised property control rules and regulations.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
And then can I just explain a little bit about
Sure.
what it is that we were doing? So this, the PCC led a project to revise some of the rules. It was 3 years in the making, so a lot of hard effort went into it. So Barry led a lot of this work for a couple of the years, and then Shane and myself, along with the PCC committee, you know, kind of brought to the finish line starting last October. And then I'd also like to really thank Lonnie here for lending her professionalism and the legalese and really putting all of our words and ideas together. But really the focus of this project was, one, make things clearer and easier and make sure we understand what things are. So like, for example, in the rules, there's a section under variances and it refers to adjacent property owner. We didn't have a definition of what that was, so we've defined it. So we've made things easier to interpret. And then there's a lot of new construction that's been going on. We want to make sure we were thorough in thinking through some of those rules around that. And then we've expanded some sections like drainage and grading, which, trust me, I got one over my head. And then we've also tried to update and modernize some things. For example, we've added 2 fence types. And then outside of the PCC things, there were some additional things that were concerns from the different homeowners and around safety. And we've tried to address that. For example, there was a section around fireworks, when you can shoot those off, not at all hours. We had a section around noise nuisance to make sure we had something in the rules around that we could try to enforce. So those are just a couple of the headlines. Again, long time in the making. So just wanted to give everyone a little background. And,
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
sorry.
Good.
Okay. DOR again. First, I want to thank Allison for the clarifications on the DOR. It was very helpful. Took a lot of stuff that I was going to stay away, and it's always better to come from her than it is to come from me. But anyway, we've got that squared away. We have had 2 town hall meetings on the DOR so far, and to put it mildly, attendance has been underwhelming. I mean, if it wasn't for me and Gloria showing up, I don't think we hardly have anybody. And Mr. Knight, who's here tonight, was also there. He's been to both of them. So the crowds are just not there. So that means to me that we probably answered all the questions. There are no concerns about the DOR, and we're moving ahead for approval. But just in case, there are 2 more town halls scheduled. August the 28th, it's a Saturday at 4 p.m. here at the Rec Center. And September the 4th, also a Saturday at 2 p.m. here at the Rec Center. So if there are questions or concerns on the DOR, please come to these town hall meetings and we'll try our best to answer the questions, alleviate the concerns, and go on from there. Both the Document Management Committee and the board, of course, recommended approval of the DOR. This whole thing we've got now is a patchwork of stuff that's 50 years old and it really needs to be updated, and we've done that. So please vote so we have a legitimate vote, and whatever the result of the vote is then result of what the community wants, not as a result of not voting and apathy taking over. So please get out there and vote. If you've got questions, 2 more town hall meetings, and let's go ahead and put this thing to bed. Thank you.
That's good. Lot management. I need a motion and a second to approve the sale of 2544 Lakeside Drive.
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion and a second to approve the sale of 5334 Monticello Drive.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion and a second for the sale of 2253 Norwood Court.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Don't have any committee reports. I need a motion and a second to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Go to the open forum.
Which way you want me?
It's up to you. I don't think. We can figure out that.
Let's stand here when we
That's fine, stay close to my, of that thing over there, that's fine.
Okay, because what happened is that I talked to one of my neighbors and they gave me the fact that the meeting was tonight, and I'm here about our noise ordinance. That it must be enforced, because my neighbor, Joe, actually measured the sound that was coming from our other neighbor who had a party, and it registered 75 dB at his deck, which is 30 feet from where the party was being held. Now, I was around 60 feet away, and I don't know if you can hear it. And I'm sitting out with some friends, and this is what I hear. Now, I don't want to stop anybody from having their fun, but at some point, the noise level has to be respected. Now, we called the POA, they came out, told the neighbor, we need to quiet down. We called the sheriff, and they said they were going to send someone out. And when I called the second time, the sheriff said, no, your POA security has to take care of it, because they're not coming because we have a report. My point is that some way, there must be some kind of put into making something happen. That I do know from talking to my neighbor that Mrs. Kennedy sent a violation notice to the neighbor. And they screamed bloody murder when they got it, because we were sitting on the back and we suddenly hear, what the hell? And some other pleaded illegal.
What time of day was this?
Hmm?
What time of day was this?
Oh, that was at 5:35, and it went on, it started at 2, with the other 2 complaints that we called in. Last year, they went until beyond midnight. They actually said they had called the security and said, well, look, we're having a party, so don't come get us, move our cars, so they parked, and it wasn't a problem. But the noise is the problem. If you're going to have a party, you can have it in your house, you can have it wherever you want, but at some point you have to realize that your neighbors are your neighbors. And so I don't know, the next time I'll call the county police again, I'll call our security patrol, but there has to be some more teeth put in it. And I know from talking to Joe that there has been a exponential factor that's been put in it each time the person is fined. But at some point, a neighbor needs to be told what they need to be doing. So those are my 2 minutes. Whatever's in the ordinance regarding noise, if it's not strong enough, let's make it strong.
So to your point, we are putting something in the rules for noise.
Yeah.
ordinance.
Because the county ordinance says that you cannot measure greater than 50 feet at the fence line. Joe measured 75 sitting on his deck And I'm pretty sure his deck is 20 feet plus from the property line.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Thank
And then, one more thing I just wanted to mention, the changes in the rules are gonna be highlighted in yellow, and we're gonna try to upload those
Yeah,
to
it
the
doesn't
governing
matter. It's
documents
been, this was the
tomorrow.
third
But
one in
so look
15
for it
months.
update. You'll see the
It's just
changes
they have the
highlighted in
plates
yellow.
outside.
in those rules.
Let's hold.
Yes, it's me again. I thank Alice because she did it very appropriate to go through the detail of the summary of what's in the DOR. And Barry's doing his part. I'm part of the DOR team, and so I'm a strong advocate of it. So my question to everybody here, you can hold your hands up. Have you received this envelope, which is the voting on the DOR? Anybody that hasn't received that? You haven't received it. See Allison, please, and find out. Because that's part of why I'm up here is that we put a lot of work and effort into it, a number of changes, and she explained all of that kind of technicalities. But the important thing that I've been doing and I'm very adamant about is that you need to talk to your neighbors. Because I've been talking to my neighbors. It's a good deal because I'm meeting my neighbors. I've been here 11 years and there's some of them that have moved here, some new people. And some of the others have been around and just never had occasion to cross paths with them. Well, one of the scenarios are very significantly. And one of the ladies, she purchased a house about 3 or 4 months ago. Okay, she is no sight of it, never got anything. So I told her to go see Allison. I'm not sure if she ever came there or not, but that's one of the things that occurs. You never got one either. And I talked to another gentleman that he's concerned about the initiation fee. He says, well, hey, it's actually still in my mother's name. Does that mean I'm going to have to pay for it when I actually transfer it to mine? The answer is no, because we just went through that situation and I've got a document for it to say that hey, for estates and so forth and transfer to children, it's not a problem. It's only for the people that move in from out of the subdivision and so forth. But others, and that particular person, by the way, says, didn't think I had it. And then when I came back later, why he says, well, it was in all that other stuff, that throwaway stuff, and I didn't realize it was in there. So there's a lot of people that's where it goes. I mean, they don't even realize that it's a very important document. So I encourage everybody to go knock on your neighbor's door. It's a very important thing for what we're doing. I'm going to check right now and make sure that our board did that.
All right, buddy. Shane, how many have you been knocking on?
I've lost count. It's probably about a dozen.
That's at least a good start.
Any stories on that? No, I just sat down and talked to some people and everybody seemed real receptive.
That's great, because some of them have questions and some of them don't. Barry's got maybe 50 people.
No, not 50 yet, no. I'm gonna say maybe 15 or so, but between that, and I'm not counting the town hall meeting.
My number is 27.
Yeah, you're doing quite well, but the big thing is, you know, get out there. Like you said, talk.
Don, you know everybody.
You're my neighbor.
Yeah, I know.
I've been talking to you.
Go talk to the guys in the bar.
Okay.
They're the ones that we don't see very often.
I've talked to about 5 or 6 people about it.
You can trip that. How many people voted for you to get in there?
Oh, see, now you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah. Well, you got time, because there's a number of them that still haven't left in the mail. They forgot it tonight. They need that help. Right?
I do. Yeah, I have people calling me asking to, so. They have called me with questions about it.
You got the answer, that's what they need.
I'm in full support of it. Yeah.
Thank you. Get out and vote.
We all have roles on document management committee. I'm the speaker and the pretty face. Les is the muscle.
Deputy Ballsy.
Hello, I live on Tower Drive. I have a question, or a couple of questions. First about the rec center. A couple of years ago, when you raised the dues, you said some of this money was gonna go towards doing something with the rec center. Okay, and I also understand that the fee was raised for the use of the rec center.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay, has anybody tried to use those bathrooms? They're horrible. The kids won't even use them. They want to go home to go to the bathroom. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed when we spend $30,000 on sunshades for the pool area and the bathrooms look like that. Okay, that's one thing. I know you guys have a tough job because I was vice president of a POA one time. So I know it's a thankless job and I do appreciate all your hard work. I really do. The other thing is, I wanted to ask about the restaurant. When Fede took over, you know, we had some issues, and I know that you were going to speak to him about being a little more community minded as far as doing certain things. For instance, the Women's Club does breakfast with Santa every year, and they want to charge us $300 to do it there. Now, if we got to bring it here, how do we use those bathrooms? I mean, you know, I'm just trying to point out the Women's Club loves doing things for the community, but it's getting harder and harder for us to do that. So we just want some cooperation or something. And I just feel like with the country club, we've lost an amenities. None of the clubs meet there anymore. We don't want to meet here because of the bathrooms. So we meet at each other's houses or wherever. And I feel like dues go up and I've lost an amenity. So that's all I wanted to say.
Beat Bumper Road.
Good point. Very good point.
Hi there, I'm Leah Brumbelow and I also live on Terra Drive, but it has come to my attention that some rental companies are buying up properties. I happen to know somebody whose house was sold to a rental company. What I'd like to know, is there a limit to the companies that can come in and set up rentals in our neighborhood? And if there isn't a limit, why isn't there a limit? The other thing I'd like to know is who's going to be accountable for this? For instance, if they come in and all of a sudden somebody decides to set up shop and have their mechanic shop out in front of their house, how is this going to be, how is this going to be governed?
It's happened. I can answer that. We can't limit the number of rentals as of right now. The only way to do that is to change the DOR. And all the work had already been put in, but the board is in discussions right now as far as possibly, even if this gets passed, possibly doing an amendment to do something. As far as them setting up shop, they are subject to the same rules and regulations as any other property owner. And
So who do you go after? Do you go after
we
the
go after
rental
the
company?
company.
And how long would it take if somebody decided to move in next door to me and they decided to have, you know, their mechanic shop out front?
They would do the same process as everybody else, and they do get fined occasionally when they have a tenant that doesn't comply.
I know of a property over not too far from me where somebody is doing that, and it's been well over a year.
3 years. 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
It may be something we're addressing, and it may have gone to the point where it's a court, if it's a rental company, but I don't know, I'm not sure of any rental company. Now, if it's a property owner that's renting to a home, to a tenant, they're a lot easier to go after, but as of right now, I'm not sure of any company that's renting out that we're
Yes.
having issues with.
There is one that has been sold to a rental company.
Yeah.
And because I personally know the lady.
Could you, if you could just send me an email with that address, and then I'll check to see where we're at.
Okay.
Plans-wise.
Okay, well, thank you.
Anita Wright.
Well, I live on 5195.
and I have a couple of things that I wanted to discuss. It was about beautification. Our cul-de-sac looks like third world country from the builders. And it's been looking like that for about 2 years now, because it's taken that long to build the house there. And it's been left like that. It looks dreadful. The other thing is, when we had the microblast, it hit my backyard. I live on the fishing lake, and my whole backyard is nothing but trees and destruction. I've got pictures. I sent them to what's his name? Oh, the POA, and he was supposed to send the pictures on, but I've taken care of every bit of it except where the lake, the tree, what that was growing on the bank of the lake, the roots were in the water, the tree fell and the root ball came up and pulled part of the lake up about 20 feet on the bank. Now I paid for the tree to be done and the root ball. Insurance did not cover that, but I cannot deal with the part of the lake that's starting to destroy and deteriorate. So who would be responsible for that? Lake people? Maintenance of the lake? I mean, there has to be.
Which lake?
The fishing lake.
The fishing lake.
Mhm. And I did have the chief of maintenance come around when the tree was fallen and the root ball was up, and I've got pictures, the lake was up this much. But I had a friend who tried to pat it down and he's got it pretty much down, but on the bank, it's starting to fall, it will deteriorate. So part of the bank will fall into the water. So I think there should be someone who's in charge of seeing to the lake banks, isn't there? Because you own 25 feet in, don't you? So it's really not my responsibility, even though I paid for the tree and the root ball should have been POA.
I had actually had a similar thing happen to me. I live on the lake and I had a tree fall in and I
Uh-huh.
had to pay for it.
Well, I did, I paid for
So,
it.
I mean, the rules.
But I shouldn't have to pay for the bank deteriorating. That's kind of engineer work. And I don't feel I should have to pay for that. I mean, I should think the lake committee does take care of things like that.
On the tip, the actual.
So am I
things.
supposed to get an engineer in and have it all done like that? I don't know even how to deal with it. And it's gonna corrode further. It's not just gonna be my part of the land, it's gonna go on other people's.
What was your address again?
5195 Fern Court. And chief of engineers here apparently came and looked when my bank was up like this. And that's as far as it ever got.
Well, he's gonna do some research on that and find out.
It doesn't take a year. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
That's all the questions I have. Now we're going to go into question and answer for the candidates.
Oh, okay. Okay, please.
That's right on the open screen.
Yeah, it's on one of those lines. I had to figure that, not there's one on Tara, but the other.
Okay, Allison's gonna explain the rules and then we're gonna get started.
All right, so we have all the index cards pulled out of the thing, so these will be the questions that, that are asked. And then no one, the audience will be able to ask questions verbally. The candidates will be given 2 minutes per question, to answer the question. Of course, no personal attacks on any candidate, and, we will alternate, just, so if we start a question with Dawn, the second question, Jeff will go first. So we're gonna alternate with who gets to answer the question first.
Okay, gentlemen, first question, this is in regards to the back gates. Don, have you seen the lines and the length, have you seen the lengthy lines on holidays and weekends? What are your thoughts on keeping or closing the back gates?
Well, we've had to keep it now. Originally, the back gate was installed for just residents. But at this point, we have grown so much that residents need people to get in back there because it's so much closer to their house. Second of all, if you Google how to get out here, they'll send you to the back gate. So if you get to the back gate and it's not manned, then somebody's got to tell them how to Google back around to the front. We looked at it one time about cutting it down to save money, but it's just not feasible anymore. We're too big.
That's right.
Mr. Hunter?
Okay, so my thoughts on it are to make it like a, on the weekends only, make it where it's residents only. And the visitors would have to go around to the front. That could substantially save, there's no telling how many thousands of dollars a year in salaries for somebody to man that particular gate. It needs to at least be looked at because the biggest part of the budget seems to be, you know, what is spent for spot. And that's my humble opinion. I'm only one person, so honestly, it'll be hard to carry anything, you know, but always know that if somebody has an opinion different than what is normal or expected, I can be that advocate. I mean, that's, you know, I like new ideas. And that's where I stand with that.
Okay. This one's gonna be for you, Mr. Hunter, first. Can you tell me your position on the new DOR and why you are voting to approve or disapprove?
I would prefer to plead the fifth on that one. I'm sorry? Why? It's my personal choice.
Would you read that question again?
The question is, can you tell me your position on the new DOR and why you are voting to approve or disapprove?
Well, I'm voting to approve because Les would burn me out. Now, the financial thing about the new version they come up with is very, very helpful. It's going to generate us some money. It's really not going to cost anybody anything because it's going to be a common real estate transaction. And your finances is another problem. When the flood come along to nobody's fault, we ended up having to borrow $1.2 million that we're making payments on. That gets back to the back gate. This place was cut in half because all the roads were gone. So if you wanted to get to the back gate, you had to go all the way down 161 and 166. So it's really, at this point, and the community will get to decide, it's a tool that we must really have for financial reasons.
Don, next question for you first. What are your thoughts on adding a public safety director? Is it needed?
No, I don't think so, because number one, was off, and they have their own director. And then we got a fire chief, and they got their own director. And you can't have the fire chief trying to tell SPA what to do, and you can't have SPA telling the fire chief what to do. So let them run their own thing, because it just costs us extra money, and we get no benefit for it.
Mr. Hunter? Same question.
So my opinion on that would be similar to Mr. Harmon's, which is it's not needed. I think it would be a added cost that, again, is not needed. We need to work very diligent on streamlining, and that is one that I feel strongly that it's not needed.
Mr. Hunter, question for you first. How do you see rules? Are they guidelines or should they be followed as written?
Okay, reference to the rules. They are not supposed to be like suggested. It should be, this is what is expected. You knew that when you moved in. These are the consequences if you don't follow them. Simple thing, if you do something out in town, you need to pay for whatever it is that you've done wrong. And as far as I know, everybody in here should be adults that own a home, and they should act accordingly. So I feel like the current rules are in place. They're good. Some could need some tweaking. I don't know exactly which one I would want to look at, but by far and large, everything should be run the way it is as far as the rules go.
Rules are rules, and we should follow them, and if we find a discrepancy in a rule that's not working for the community, then the board can change it. The rules are put there to help make the place work better. And so rules are rules.
Next question. What is your vision for Fairfield in 20 years?
Me?
I'm sorry.
Well, I had to take a deep breath on that one because I've lived out here 40 years and I've seen a lot of changes in 40 years. So what the next 20 is going to be is hard to say. But I will say my purpose of wanting to be on the board is to keep Fairfield the same beautiful, livable place that it's been all the 40 years I've lived here and enjoyed living here. So if y'all give me 20 more good years, it might be time for me to go by then. Getting a little bit more up.
Jeff, same question.
Well, keeping with the standards that they have, because they've been really high, that's what attracts people to want to move and live here. Just looking, further down the road, it's going to be what new technologies will be available as far as making the gates a different way, perhaps similar like you see a high-end apartment complex or higher-end upscale housing community. Maybe not as large as us, but they have the little clicker where you're in your car, push the little button, the gate opens, and you drive in. Something along those lines for the future, because it's a pain when it's cold. You got to roll your window down, stick it out, or if it's raining really bad. Today, case in point, inside of your car is soaking wet. So looking at, upgrading some things that'll make it more beneficial for my kids. Because, when I leave or when I'm passed on, this will be there. So I want to leave it something good for them as well as make it better for those of us that are still here now enjoying it.
Last question. What do you feel your skills or experiences is bringing to the BOD? Please give examples.
Well, to start with, I complete outsider, so that's to start with. Only being here 2.5 years doesn't give me a lot of qualification as far as knowing the ins and outs, intricacies of everything that's done, other than what you read about on Facebook, and that's not the best place to get it. If you want to know, you need to contact Allison, send an email to the board, find out what is, the best way as a common goal to make Fairfield better for everybody. As far as my skill set would be, I'm more of a technical person, working with the phone company, so I know how things have to work, they have to work by certain specifics, certain guidelines, parameters, safety, that sort of thing. And then, of course, my Navy time, which has been a while back, but, I supervised a lot of subordinates below me, very stressful situations. So I'm not afraid to get my hands in there and roll them up and get dirty.
Well, my business background is, I was a partner in West Georgia Crown and Bridge for 40 years, which we employed about 18 people at one time. So I look at everything out here in a business sense. A second thing is, I was on the board of tax assessors for 20 years. So I have an understanding about property values out here, whether our homes are going up, so forth and so on. And, that gives me a perspective on how we want to keep this community moving. Nobody likes property taxes, but you don't want them to get fall in half. The only reason people don't like them is because you pay more in taxes. So that's just a fact of life. And also, I've been out here a long time, and I've been on the board before for 6 years. So I know how things kind of work and things we have to look at to move forward. Not just moving forward, but keeping a high quality of life that we continue to enjoy out here.
That's the end of the questions. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.